Cold open, spoilers ahead, this chapter lays out the board for Season 2. Stop now if you want surprises. The murder of a king splinters Westeros into the War of the Five Kings. In King's Landing the Lannisters and the Boy King hold the Iron Throne, with Tywin pulling strings and Tyrion newly acting his hand. In the north Robb Stark rules his own kingdom by right and by force. On Dragonstone Stannis Baratheon plants a rival claim and gathers followers. His brother Renly also mounts a challenge in the south while Balon Greyjoy declares independence in the Iron Islands. Across the Narrow Sea Daenerys seeks allies and ships, and beyond the Wall the Night's Watch faces new dangers that reshape the north. Season 2 treats legitimacy as contested currency, bloodlines, banners, religious claims and public spectacle each press a claim as much as armies do. Those competing bases of authority split loyalties and create the multiple theaters that will drive major moves this season. With the board set, next we follow each claimant's opening plays. By the time Season 2 opens, the realm fractures into competing claims and quick maneuvers. Two brothers from House Baratheon, Stannis and Renly, both declare themselves Robert's rightful successor, and their rival courts begin to gather banners and allies. Stannis consolidates power at Dragonstone and issues a legal challenge from a narrow, uncompromising posture. Renly builds a broader, popular camp in the south that pulls in powerful partners. Those parallel claims immediately alter the map. Houses choose sides, levies muster, and coastal and field operations start to shift momentum before any pitched battle. In King's Landing a different game begins. Tyrion Lannister arrives as Hand of the King and prioritizes the city's survival over private vendettas. He restructures the small council, tightens defenses, and redirects attention from personal retribution to pragmatic command. That appointment tempers the Lannister impulse toward brinksmanship and forces political actors to adopt institutional strategies. Taken together, declarations of kingship and the installation of a capable hand create pressure everywhere. They force new alliances and secret moves. Next we follow investigations, covert bargains, and the hidden dangers that grow from these opening plays. Power in Season 2 often shifts away from open battle and toward secrets, persuasion, and bargains. Spoiler warning, this chapter recounts key deaths and alliances. In King's Landing and beyond, religious spectacle and private pacts do work that armies cannot. Melisandre, acting as Stannis Baratheon's spiritual strategist, uses blood magic and fervent prophecy to eliminate a rival claimant, an act that both removes an immediate obstacle and deepens Stannis' dependence on mysticism. That dependence stiffens his followers and frightens opponents, changing how nobles weigh support. Meanwhile, in the capital, Tywin Lannister moves to convert military advantage into durable legitimacy by courting the powerful Tyrells. A marriage alliance and negotiated favors bind resources and troops to the crown, recalibrating which houses will fight and who will command supply and influence. These scenes show the season's central lesson: victories depend as much on wills, symbols, and legal ties as on swords. By reshaping loyalties before the major battles, sorcery and diplomacy become force multipliers that presage the coming clash at Blackwater. Parallel threads, notably Daenerys' struggles east of the Narrow Sea, run alongside these machinations and demand their own close look. Daenerys sails into Qarth with a narrow, urgent mandate: find ships and patrons to carry her back to Westeros. She has left Season 1 broken, her khalasar scattered, and her claim depends now on allies and resources rather than armies. Qarth greets her as much with curiosity as calculation. Wealthy merchants, the ruling council known as the 13, and a cabal of local magicians alternately offer hospitality, bargaining, and menace. Her 3 living dragons become the story's pivot, unique assets that make her attractive to would-be backers but also mark her as a dangerous commodity to be contained or seized. The arc in Qarth is less a contest over crowns than a struggle for patronage: who will finance a return, who will control access to ships, and who will profit from or neutralize Daenerys' beasts. Each interaction tests her judgment as a leader who must convert lineage into deliverable power, protect the dragons, persuade patrons, and demonstrate she can be a useful and fearful ally. Meanwhile, in the north and on Westeros' coasts, other political and military shifts are setting the stage for future collision. On the northern front, 2 campaigns redraw the wartime map in quick succession. The Night's Watch pushes beyond a strictly defensive posture. Jon Snow volunteers on arranging to gather intelligence about the wildlings and the forces assembling north of the Wall. His forays are risky, but strategic information about enemy numbers and movement becomes as valuable as castle walls. Parallel to that steady, patient work, Theon Greyjoy makes a reckless bid for honor and standing. Seeking glory and a return to his family's sea power, he abandons subtler politics and strikes the north, seizing Winterfell and displacing Stark authority in one bold move. The consequences are immediate: a key stronghold changes hands, supply lines and loyalties shift, and the Stark-led position in the region is suddenly vulnerable. Strategically, these strands show how control of places and control of knowledge both reconfigure theaters of war. One front advances by intelligence, the other collapses under a gamble for personal renown. The result is a north now fragmented and exposed, pressures that will converge with the mounting crisis around King's Landing as the season moves toward open confrontation. Months of maneuvering on many fronts culminate in a single, violent moment that decides the season. Stannis Baratheon, determined to press his claim, brings his fleet and army to the gates of King's Landing and forces the war onto the capital's walls. Inside, Tyrion Lannister steps into a leadership vacuum. He rushes to organize defenses, rally soldiers and sailors, and deploys a forbidden weapon, wildfire, as a force multiplier against superior numbers. The explosion on Blackwater Bay wipes out much of Stannis' fleet and turns the sea into a graveyard, but the victory is not guaranteed by cunning alone. Relief arrives in time, Lannister allies appear on the horizon, and their presence converts Tyrion's tactical success into a strategic reprieve. Read as the season's hinge, Blackwater shows how decisive planning, individual boldness, and timely alliances can compensate for numerical disadvantages and reshape political fortunes. The battle removes the immediate threat to the throne, elevates some houses while weakening others, and forces surviving players to realign. With the smoke clearing over Blackwater, the season's final episode examines who benefits, who pays the cost, and how the regional balance of power is reset going into the next cycle of conflicts. Season 2 closes on a continent rearranged by a single, brutal set piece and the ripples that follow. In the siege of King's Landing, Stannis Baratheon's navy and army fail to wrest the capital. Tyrion's improvised defenses, including wildfire, and the timely arrival of Tywin Lannister with the Tyrells force Stannis to withdraw. The immediate consequence is clear: the Lannisters keep the Iron Throne, but their hold rests on a coalition and costly tactics. Tyrion survives but is wounded and politically marginalized. Tywin returns as the true power in King's Landing, and Cersei's position grows more precarious. Outside King's Landing, competing claims are checked but not extinguished. Stannis remains a living threat despite naval losses. Robb Stark continues to press his advantage in the north and Riverlands, while Theon's seizure of Winterfell leaves him isolated and dishonored. Beyond Westeros, Daenerys' campaign in Essos advances her profile even as she struggles for resources and allies. At the Wall, Jon Snow takes a desperate step to infiltrate the wildlings, a choice that moves the Night's Watch from defensive watchmen to active intelligence gatherers. Objectively, winners are partial. Lannisters retain the capital but at the cost of unity and blood. Survivors like Stannis, Robb, and Daenerys keep their causes alive. Season 2 ends with power redistributed, leaders tested, and multiple wars still very much undecided. Season 2 redraws the map of power. The realm fractures into rival centers and the cost of kingship becomes brutal and public. The immediate consequence is the Lannisters' survival after the assault on King's Landing, a victory that secures their hold but exposes internal weakness and the limits of a single crowned claim. In King's Landing, Tyrion's tactical role and Tywin's return reshape Lannister authority. Their grip is restored but tempered by political damage and Cersei's faltering influence. Beyond the capital, Robb Stark and the Northern Coalition gain military prestige while finding their options narrowed by alliances and the logistics of sustained war. Stannis Baratheon's invasion fails to seize the crown but establishes him as an enduring, ideologically driven rival. Across the Narrow Sea, Daenerys' journey keeps non-Westerosi forces and evolving dragons firmly in play, adding another axis to the contest. Season 2 therefore amplifies a multi-front conflict, raises the practical and moral price of seeking rulership, and reassigns leverage among key players without resolving the succession. These structural shifts make the next phase both more entangled and more inevitable.